Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Uh, First, let me read the usual announcement. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner. The link provided in the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship and despite best efforts, we will post on the Westborough Public Library website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And this meeting is being recorded. Now I know a member of the public is trying to get on, it wants to get in or wants to speak. I spoke with her about 20 minutes ago. And I don't see her, so let me just see if so I propose to just postpone the public forum until the public turns up, and go ahead with the rest of the meeting at this point. So with that said, first question, anybody have any concerns about doing that?
No, sounds fine.
Okay. In that case, let me ask LPA to present their work plan. I'm going to be watching something else for a minute to try and get the person another link. So Christina, is that going to be you?
Yes, Katie and I are gonna chat about it. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the purpose of this work plan study, which we have completed here today, and what is up on the screen, was the analysis of kind of targeting two different town meeting votes in order to approve funding for the DD, NCD, and bidding. And so that's kind of what these are showing down here. So the first column assumes a 2023 town meeting vote, and the second column, it assumes the next spring, which is March of 2024. And so what we did is we just tried to work backward from both of those dates to try to see how things lined up in terms of our public outreach and our design and everything that we needed to get done prior to that vote. And essentially, what we've come to realize is that for a couple of different reasons, we're advocating for option number 2. And Katie is going to chime in here if I miss anything in terms of our process or our logic. So the two sort of things helped us to form this decision is kind of with option number 1, things are very, very quick. We would have to be starting pretty much yesterday on the public outreach and programming so that we could essentially even get to the point where we're developing scope and have enough time to develop our schematic design, drawings and narratives, and then have enough time to give us a really healthy buffer for that public outreach, which we know is going to be so important. So that's one thing, is that we would need to be starting yesterday. The second thing is that we heard from the town of Westborough that due to the way that the funding works on this voting, that we would be unable to submit for payment essentially until, correct me if I'm wrong, Maureen, July, I believe.
July.
And while that doesn't really bother us as LPA or Vertex, we would like to start this process by activating our specialized consultants, and those are the folks that we would need to be able to pay. So that's what's really the crux of it, I think, in my opinion, is that if we want, the first thing that we want to do is engage the specialized consultants to take a look at that slate roof, to take a look at those historical windows and the masonry, and that's something that would potentially have to get pushed till that July date. Katie, anything else that I missed in terms of
No, of course, you've done a great job. One of the things we've been talking about is that this schematic design is different than the previous grant proposal, and that existing conditions, sort of being able to convey to the public what is this sort of base repair piece that we need, and what are the options beyond that we want to support, is an important framework for this rather than going from the grant requirements, which we did previously, and working backwards from that. So this existing conditions documentation that we're talking about starting or really diving into, if you remember, we did sort of a back of envelope or order of magnitude estimate for, I shouldn't say back of envelope, it was more than that, but it was a thoughtful consideration, but it was an order of magnitude budget, not nearly the level of cost estimating that we had for the grant program. So we want to advocate for getting that baseline done so that you may convey that to the community more clearly when the questions come up. The other thing that has happened candidly in our offices all last fall, we were pursuing a number of different projects along with hoping the library would pass, especially the grant program. And all the stars aligned, of course, and we have a number of contracts that came through just in between the March, between then and the March town meeting where you got this approved. So we really feel we can do a better job as a firm if we can get started with the contract date of the July start. There are probably some things that we could do earlier, as Christina said, that would only involve our firm, but we do see a critical piece needed from these other consultants in order to really understand the value of the base repair piece. And then, as I said, build in those programmatic options that are going to optimize this building so that people feel their investment has been really well placed in this community building. I think that's the only thing I would add.
No, that's a great point. And that I think that with the option one, we're kind of overlapping our programming with those existing conditions analysis. And if we have more time to breathe, we can really come back to the community in the visioning and programming to say, like, this is the information we have gathered. This is what's happening with the existing building. And this is a new and different lens and way of looking at this project. We heard you. So I know, Walter, I see you have your hand up.
So yeah, I have a quick question on it. I don't disagree with your opinion on which date to shoot for, but I'm just wondering, I'm assuming that the reason we have to wait for July 1st is because it was a borrow motion and not free cash, so that it can't start right away like the free cash articles. However, my question would be, can the consultants start at the end of June, since payments would be allowable on July 1st? And I'm just more of I think the sooner we start exploring, the better we'll be. And I assume that they don't expect to get paid on the first week that they're working. So maybe that would work.
I'm sure we could try to kick that off. Of course, that July 4th week is always a black zone in terms of getting a lot of productivity done, but it might be worth getting it kicked off in June so that once the momentum really gets going again, they hit the ground running. And I think that's a decent suggestion, Walter.
I was actually thinking along the same lines. We can get things set up so that the contractors can go as soon after the beginning of July as possible and not lose those weeks.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said about trying to start like the outreach right in the beginning of when folks are coming back from the summer vacation too, to have contact with more individuals that aren't traveling and on vacation and out of school. So there's a little bit of that as well in terms of the timing, to be able to really have a robust programming and outreach course of action.
Sean Keogh has a question, Christina.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I did have one other concern, and I don't have an issue with looking to next year's annual town meeting. And I think it goes to a little bit to what Christina was just saying, is that looking at the kind of the programming in the town visioning session being in those first couple weeks of August, I think you're going to have significant portion of folks not available at some point, maybe because it's 3 weeks. Eventually you get a chance to see everybody, but I don't know. Is there further down what you would consider to be, I guess, a second opportunity for people to maybe after Labor Day to take a look at it?
I do think that we can, with the option number 2, we have a lot more wiggle room in terms of being able to do that, to be able to spread it out a little bit and reach more individuals if that August timeframe is not the best. So I think the short answer would be yes. There's definitely ways that we could spread those out and change those a bit, if that would be helpful. And I even mentioned to Maureen that if you want to, just do anything in the interim so you don't lose momentum, we're open to talking about how that would be helpful. I understand that you have a lot of attention on the project now. We've discussed it a little bit, but we don't want to lose momentum. And I completely understand that sentiment. So I think we have flexibility to customize the schedule and to get those meetings scheduled at the right time.
And if I may, just to add to what Christina was saying, there's a benefit to doing something in late summer, early fall, in that we'll have more of that existing conditions information that we can use again to sort of frame out more about what the project is. Whereas starting right off the bat now, it's a programming piece at the moment. We could certainly have some existing conditions based on what our other engineers have looked at, but I think this has a lot of merit in terms of sequence and getting that message out to the.
Lee, you've got your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I have some concerns about the things that we felt are getting much more urgently decrepit. Some of the window seals, things like that, and some of the roof tiles missing. So Maureen, do you have any concerns about this delaying when we'll actually get started on fixing some of the things that we felt were so, urgently needed?
I'm not sure how to answer that. Yes, of course, because we have so much that needs to be done, but I think this is the plan that makes the most sense. Shooting for the Springtown meeting just because of timing and to make sure that we get a good plan. Trying to rush it through is never going to come out the way it needs to. We need to give it enough time to develop a really good scope and get all the information and the feedback and get the information communicated out to the public, because we know how important that is.
Bob?
Sure, I agree with Maureen. I think we do need to give it the proper attention that it needs, especially, considering the fact that we went through those 2 town meetings. The public gave us their trust back in last month. And I think if we rush it through to October and we're coming forward with more money and we don't have a full plan developed, I'd hate to have us looking at each other and not being able to answer appropriately in October. So I think we should give ourselves a little bit more time. I just had a quick question too on the community and town visioning session. I'm assuming that's going to be a reporting out of what the existing conditions and the findings of what LPAA and Vertex find over the next several months. When we do have that, it's a reporting out, or is it also including what the public thinks? Because I'm not sure, how could they assist with just the basic repairs, or is there something more you'd be looking at having input?
I think that it could take a number of different shapes depending on our discussions, but I think that what would be really interesting is just to say, here's what we found, and here's what's happening in the existing building, and here's the data that we've been able to collect. Now, what do you think? What are your priorities as we're looking at renovating this building as opposed to adding on? So, looking at the programming from a slightly different lens than we were before, when we had the MBLC sort of programmatic constraints in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. But we of course are open to structuring it however you feel is most logical.
Great. That's a good point. Though I do like the word repair versus the renovation, because I think people think renovation, they think of full scale remodeling, and I don't think that's what this is about. I don't know.
I think that's another reason why it's good to have some extra time here in this scope development zone, because I think that having that knowledge of here's what repair is, here's what renovation is, and being able to kind of talk to the community and this committee about what exactly those scope items are.
Mhm.
Is it an ad alternate of changing out, for example, all the gas boilers to electric? Is that something that we want to discuss? Is that something that's a priority? So I think that's going to be something that we have to discuss as we develop that scope.
Good point. Thank you.
Bill?
Yes, all good points. I support option 2. Lee's got a good point, but Maureen answered it right. I think we tell the public something came up as an emergency and we have to take care of whatever may come up in the interim. One point that I want to make clear as we go forward, when we say we need to go in and find out what's behind the walls and do to find out what's there, etc. I don't want the public to misunderstand. That was always part of the scope, but further on in the project. This is a different way of looking at this project. I hear little questions here and there saying, why do you need to find it now? But it was a whole different scope. And if you would, as we present this, we keep telling the people that it was always to be done, but in a different manner. I think I'm getting my point across, but I don't want people to think it's something new that we're doing.
Walter?
You're on mute.
Okay. Can you show me in the schedule? I'm just a little lost on some of the terms and the acronyms and things, but which is the part that the consultants do that deep dive behind the sheetrock and stuff like that? Is that the existing? It says documentation. Does that mean not just documentation, but investigation?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. So it would be site MEP, code consultants, and these are the specialized consultants that I mentioned, windows, masonry, slate. They would be doing the investigations.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you make your point right here. Today's the 18th. You would have already really, I mean, we're behind the 8 ball for an October meeting anyway already.
Yeah.
And on a very tight schedule that you've listed here from what my reading of it was anyway. I think your suggestion makes more sense to approach it.
I have one comment. So near the bottom of the screen, you can see identify multiple scope scenarios, including base repair. I think we'll need to have, I don't know if visioning is the right word, but a good bit of public discussion at that point. That if I understand it correctly, we'll start seeing some kind of base level cost information at that stage.
At that stage, we'd have to kind of talk about if we're going to kind of share order of magnitude cost differences between the sort of baseline scope, medium renovation, full renovation type of thing. I think that's something we're going to have to discuss further as we move along in terms of what's being shared and how it's being shared. And we obviously do not want to put out any numbers that are not fully baked out into the universe. So I think that's going to have to be a discussion publicly and like in this committee as well, as we get a little bit further down the line with our scope development. I mean, it might make sense to do those kind of small, medium, large categories, for example, or we could potentially have those ad alternates. There's a lot of different ways that we could take a look at the scope.
The reason I ask is, that we're definitely looking at all kinds of trade-offs here, and one of the biggest things we're trading off will be cost. So the less we know about cost, the harder it is to make good decisions. But But yeah, I agree. We have to have them baked, at least in the oven. So we can,
Right, because we saw the discussion that happened about the 19 million.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
the community felt that that number was not fully baked. And we don't want to go through that situation again.
right.
Right.
I guess my point is that we're going to want to bring public discussion in once we do have the costs, or
Mhm.
have the estimated costs. So, and if it may or may not be at that point, it's I guess that's pretty early in the process to really finish the baking. But
Right. I mean, there's possibility that we could get some order of magnitude sort of cost just for internal consumption so that we can
Mhm.
keep our finger on where we're landing on these options, but that's something we can discuss. I don't know if Katie, if you have anything to add on
Well,
that.
no, I think it's an excellent point, and we've been talking about communication in general and kind of building that into the schedule. This is very much of an outline schedule. Your input today has been awesome. You know, it's already a few edits that we can make, but I think we need to kind of talk about what type of communication and when happens. And I was just thinking, especially Walter on the finance committee, in Westborough, do you ever have like full board meetings on projects like this? Do you ever have the finance committee, the board of selectmen, the building committee, all present for review? I know the community visioning is an opportunity for that, but I think one of the things is presenting to each board and hearing input versus having everybody hear it all at once and discuss it at one time. I just was curious if that type of format ever happens for major
Yeah,
projects
so
like this.
I don't know about for major projects, but we do it routinely, at least twice a year for, we conquer different subjects that way. So, and since this is a large project, Sean is now, who's joined with us as the chair of the select board. So it would just really be up to, I think, Sean and I probably to get agreement from our committees. We'd like to do that.
Well, congratulations,
It's
Sean. That's
sensible.
great.
It's a very sensible thing.
Thank you.
Well, we've
It
seen
could
that
also
very
attract
successful.
a little more public attention that way.
Right, the public can come and they can make their comments. It's like almost still a visioning session or a community session, but it's very pointed in that those board members are expected to be the audience. Maureen, I'm pulling this up, but this is from past experience in communities that's worked very well. I just crossed my mind in terms of thinking about how things went down with the previous vote where the finance committee didn't support it and others did. If there's maybe a different format for discussing this project publicly, maybe that might be something we could consider that might be successful.
I think it'd be particularly useful early on. I suspect the finance committee will want a little more detail later on as we get closer to town meeting, but I think that's an excellent way to introduce a topic for sure. And it's very efficient because both boards get to hear the questions the other boards make and the answers instead of asking the same question.
And just having even the discussion piece, I think is really important. And then the different boards understand the perspective of the other boards. So you're working more in unison in the end. That's the goal, I guess, obviously.
Yeah, it's an excellent suggestion. I guess timing wise, I would think sometime after fall town meeting and before the budget stuff kicks up at the end of December would probably be ideal for scheduling something like that.
That would work probably very well, don't you think, Christina? I guess we're looking at estimating in December, maybe even early. We'd have to look at that. It's just something to consider, what the timing on that might be. And if that format makes sense. It is definitely a way to get community input as well, depending on how you monitor it, but.
Any other
I
thoughts on
think-
the?
Yeah, I
Go
think
ahead,
it's
sorry.
I think it's a must do. Absolutely.
Any other thoughts on the all boards presentation? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Bob. I see your hands up.
Sure. I just had a quick comment or thought. I agree with everything that everyone just brought up. And would we ever consider giving a brief overview at the October meeting? Like, I know a year ago, you know, in March, we gave a quick update, you know, stay tuned, here's where we are. Would we ever do that at the public meeting, at the town October meeting? Just to kind of give maybe a 5-minute overview and update and tell them this is the process so far and stay tuned, so to speak, and tell them that, you know, visioning or these extra sessions are going to be happening.
I think that would be up to the moderator. I can't imagine he would say no to that, but we would just have to ask if he would give us time.
It's another opportunity, another touch point with the public in an official capacity without necessarily putting a constraint on us that we'd have to give the whole report in October. It can be just like a halfway there update.
Oh, God, it started at 3:30.
Steve, I see your hands up.
Two thoughts here. Thank you. I've done that in other towns, is to provide an update to town meeting, especially if it's for items that town meeting has voted to have happen, and then you're providing just an update based on monies the town meeting has already approved. So, but if I remember last time, that Westborough wasn't something that they did. I know I've done it in other towns, but anyway, we can deal with that when we get there. The amount, the timing right at the end of the schedule that's on the screen, we just have to narrow down as we get closer exactly when the dollar amount is needed for town meeting. Looks like there's plenty of time there based on the dates that are here, but just so we have that dollar amount submitted in time to make it onto the town meeting.
Yeah. Sean?
Yeah, I think to go back to, sorry, to what Walter was talking about earlier, in having a meeting, a combined board meeting. So we typically have our budget meeting, which is across boards like the last week in January. So I would suggest at some point earlier in that month, we would probably want to have that meeting. I think we would target it then. So it was prior, everybody understood where the project was before we had our budget discussion. I think in January would make the most sense.
Okay. Steve, to just something you mentioned, we have given updates, sort of intermediate updates on the status of the library project off and on for at least 8 years now. So putting another one in won't be a problem. And as Maureen said, I can't imagine it being a problem. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments about this schedule? Okay, hearing none. Before we proceed to the vote, the members of the public have joined. I see 2. And I'd like to invite them, I'd like to give them a chance to comment, to make their comments so that if they have something to say about the schedule, we can hear that before any votes. I see Jody and Boyd are on. Would either of you like to comment?
I'm good.
Okay. So Jody, you said you're good?
I am.
Okay. And I'm not hearing anything from Boyd. Did I miss anybody? Hey. Sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. Again, I apologize, guys. I had this on my calendar at 4 o'clock. So Steve, I'm glad you were here. It's been a rough week. My only question with this is, and again, not time maybe to plan these in, but I think it's going to be important to, you know, nail down the public presentation piece of this. All right, because to me that we felt it once, right? And even if we continue with LPA's kind of priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, what are we going to need to do to prove it to people, right? And so I would expect that this effort will continue to be maybe longer than expected. You know, this is a good schedule, you know, and this is a good thing to stick to. But I'm concerned with the, you know, well, I don't believe that you have to do the priority 3s. You know what I mean? Like there's the project we talked about that failed. There's the project that would repair everything. I'm not convinced that the town is going to support the fix everything. So we're going to need to, I think, and again, this is more commentary than anything. I don't have an idea in my head yet, because obviously LPA has to start. I just think every time we find something out, we need to go ahead and, much like we have these updates to the select board or whatever, they're gonna have to be more detailed than usual, I think. You know, here's what we're finding, here's what we're thinking. You know, it's nice to have people from the public on, but those 2, 4, 5 people, maybe 10 max we saw after the warrant article failed, it's not going to do it for us. I think to me, the whole key in getting a successful project the second time is really beating people over the head with the info, you know, of the existing conditions, of the need to do these things. And in the end, getting a design is important, but getting that design money, to me, you're already got the buy-in or not about how far we're going to go. You know, so that's, I don't know. To me, I would hope that getting to a vote for construction dollars the second time, if we've done our job correctly, it should be a much easier lift, because we got the buy-in, you know, long before. I don't know. That's what I got.
Lee?
Yes, I think we'll continue to have detractors along the way. There's such a national movement, town, counties, states, on budget issues, and certain groups of people feeling that you shouldn't spend money on anything that supports the public. And you don't know how much of that we're going to continue to have in Westborough. I think by and large, the majority, as we saw before, are supportive and will be. But John, I totally agree with your concern that we can't count on anything really, and we have to be prepared for everything in detail. So I think your points are well taken.
Which I think is another reason to not try and get everything to town meeting in October. Okay. Walter. You're on mute, Walter.
Okay, I'm going to assume that, well, with this broad schedule we have here, that we'll continue almost at every meeting to refine it and update it as one of our items for the meeting.
Yes.
That makes sense, because I could see, to John's point, a lot more detail eventually wanting to be here. I think this is perfect for getting the idea, but as we get engaged, we're going to need to be more thoughtful of the schedule.
Okay. Any other comments? In that case, I think we need to vote on the schedule or work plan. Can we have a motion?
Try that, but I move the library building committee approve the draft of option as presented in option 2 as our preliminary work plan.
Every second.
Let's
Or
add the amendment to
approve that we recommend to the trustees. Is that the more accurate phrase?
I think this particular decision doesn't have money attached to it, so I think it's probably within our the building committee's capabilities. I would say for the motion that we should mention that it be amended according to Katie's markup. I'm sorry, Christina's markup.
Okay. So amended.
Okay, we had a second?
Yes.
Okay, so I heard a second, so I will go through this list. Maureen,
Amy, yes.
Bob,
Petrusella, yes.
Lee,
Emery, yes.
Bill,
Lenane, yes.
Sean,
EO, yes.
Pete,
Dunbeck, yes.
Walter,
Leslie, yes.
and myself, Ed Baldwin, is a yes. So that's unanimous and for option 2 as amended. Okay, let's see. We didn't have any public comment at this time. So, and we've approved the work plan. The next agenda item is other building related issues, if any. I had a request from one of our residents. So I'm gonna raise an issue here. Have a mechanism to get the information on LBC meetings out to the public. I'm going to call it a push mechanism, something so that if someone lets us know that they're interested, we can essentially send them copies of the agenda, so that they would know when the meetings are coming up. Any thoughts or comments on that?
Yes.
Lee, go ahead. You're on mute.
Thank you. I think it's an interesting request, and I can understand why someone would make it, but it would be sort of an odd precedent to make for committees to have to announce in advance to any individual unless they are concerned maybe as an abutter and there's been an ongoing issue and you want to make sure that abutter is aware of what's going on, because our agendas are public. All committees' agendas are public. Our schedule is public. And I think it's incumbent on citizens who are interested in what a committee is doing to keep track of that. We make everything available, and to put a burden on us to say, hey, wait a minute, you better come because we're discussing this. I don't mean to make fun of it, but I just think it's inappropriate.
Walter?
So the town has a mechanism for doing this, but we seem to do our minutes and things on our own website. And I don't know whether we have that option, but on the town website, you can sign up for push notifications from the various town committees, whether it's minutes, whether it's agendas, whether it's other information, simply by checking a few boxes, and then you get emails when those happen. And that's the type of system I think would be most appropriate, because people could sign up and get the public-facing information, the minutes, the agendas, and anything else. And I don't know how the library actually runs its website, and so maybe someone here does, and whether that's a possibility or whether it's a possibility through the town website in some form.
So that's a question I can ask Walter.
Maureen, do you want to comment?
I can talk to the town IT department to see if our agendas could be added to that email subscription, because every board and committee has to post their agendas and minutes with the town clerk. So we're all sending them to the same place and they're all getting posted at the same place. So if we can be added to that so that people could then opt in to get our agendas when they're posted, I think that it shouldn't be difficult, but I'll talk to Mark Stockman and see what we can do.
Sustainable Westborough uses that method, and it's totally transparent and painless. So yes, just talk to Mark. Whenever you post something through the town clerk, notifications goes out to anybody who's subscribed. It's incumbent on them to subscribe, but once they do, they just get it.
I think that's a wonderful solution.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Do we need to vote for that, or just Maureen will go start that, assuming that there's no weird barriers in the way? Okay. Another thought I had, and this is just me personally, would it be worthwhile to put a link to the building committee's website, or web page, I should say, in the agenda? That would wind up going out with those push notifications. It's on the website, but sometimes taking a step out of it makes it that much easier to find.
I could certainly do that if you want that on the agenda. That's easy to do.
One negative on the town push process is it pushes the scanned image of the agenda. So there's no hyperlinks. It's an image file, not a clickable file.
So what I've tried to do to get around that, Pete, is to create a short link. So it's usually a bit.ly. It's bit.ly/ and then it's usually WPL LBC and then the date, so that you're not trying to type in all those little characters and make is it a 0 or an O, and just try to make it easy for people to be able to find the meeting.
Yep.
I'll continue to do that.
No, and also I mean, there is a town calendar. That's often where I go to see if there was a meeting. I assume we're on that since we posted a clerk that they would put that in there too. And that usually contains a link on the date to get to the agenda, I think.
Yeah, that's the official posting for the town on the town calendar.
Yeah, it gets to the agenda. It doesn't get to the building committee content and so forth that might be a subject on the agenda.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Sean, did I just see you nodding? Or
I'm good. Thank you very much.
okay. Okay, any other building related issues?
Okay.
Hearing none?
Meeting again next week. Is that correct?
Is that our regular scheduled meeting? Do we
Yes.
have anything that needs to be discussed at that point?
Sounds not.
I don't think so.
Because
Are the trustees, and I'm thinking about this for myself and asking Maureen, are the trustees going to have anything they want to hear from us at that point? Anything new? We can talk to them about voting for option 2.
I don't think so. I think it'll just be the work plan.
Okay. In that case, I guess our next meeting would be the standard one in late May, unless we feel we're going to need one sooner than that.
The 30th is the day after Memorial Day. Maybe I would suggest the 23rd.
for me.
Work for me.
Good.
May 23rd it is.
Okay.
And we will be on Zoom.
Okay. And LPA, can you let us know when we should start thinking about a formal kickoff for that?
Okay. Sure, I'll revise that document per the markups and I'll send it around.
Okay.
I'll send it to
Because
you.
we'll definitely have to post that meeting, so.
Okay.
Maureen, you'll send a new notification for the 23rd, because I can't move it on my calendar.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
Stuck.
Okay. Anything else for the meeting to discuss?
Move to
Move to
adjourn.
adjournment.
I heard 2 motions. Okay, can one of those be a second?
Second.
Okay. Maureen,
Amy, yes.
Bob,
Petroselli, yes.
Lee,
Emery, yes.
Bill,
Elaine, yes.
Sean,
EO, yes.
Pete,
Dunbeck, yes.
and Walter.
Leslie, yes.
Okay, the meeting, and myself is a yes also, sorry. Okay, thank you. The meeting is then adjourned, and we'll see you in late May.
All righty.
Okay,
Thank you,
No.
everybody.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Wait, you're
Thank
not
you.
opening it
Bye.
up for questions? I'm sorry, I thought you were opening up for questions, no?
No, we had the public forum. Well, let's stay on though. Go ahead, Jody.
The public forum? I'm so sorry, I didn't understand that. I thought you had to close the meeting and vote and then do the public forum, I'm sorry.
No, I apologize for my lack of clarity there. No, go ahead. Let's have the public forum now. We
Sorry.
actually still have a quorum of LBC members.
I just wanted to bring up a couple questions that, some things that I wanted to bring up, as a, as a resident of Westborough. And Ed, we had a really great conversation and you filled me in a lot, on the project. And just from, I've had some, experience with renovations and projects in the past, very different from this. But I just wanted to reiterate like the importance of getting the numbers and the budget numbers. When I do fundraising, and when I do fundraising, I usually have an estimated amount of the cost in advance rather than them telling us how much it's going to be. Usually you have an idea, and I know that our town, we want to make sure that this passes. So I just wanted to talk about, I think in the future, maybe kind of get the plan for what are they expecting these items to cost, like you said today at the meeting, not waiting and getting that information out to the public as soon as possible. I don't think the communication has been great. I couldn't find the last meeting very easily. I couldn't find this meeting very easily. I had to contact Ed for it. I really do think that, I understand that you want to keep things kind of to the committee, and it's too much to get it out of hand, but I feel like there has to be a little bit better communication, if you want this to pass. So some of my suggestions are, how about looking at the budget line by line, as a committee, or maybe bringing in a subcommittee and looking at what each item is going to cost. This is something that I do. I've noticed some very high costs that I think could be lowered, could be reduced. There are also some public people in the area in our town have wonderful expertise who might be able to give quotes, such as heating and cooling and things like that. I just don't understand like some of these expenses like moving and storage and, some of these additional expenses. I feel like it's just not, it could be better done. I'm not sure about these companies and how they handle it, but I think our ultimate goal is to make this happen and we'll put this through. But the budget is just, does not make sense to me. The estimated budget, I got it from the website. And I've been saying this to Maureen since the last time, and I knew it wasn't going to get voted back. And I said to her, please figure out how to reduce the cost. I've done $1 million project and done a ton. One of the healthcare centers in Worcester just did a $13 million renovation and did a whole building. So I really feel like you guys are missing it a little bit. And if you want to get this to pass, we need to kind of look at it line by line. Why is it going to cost $1 million to temporarily move? It doesn't make any sense. People are not going to vote for that. So I also, offered my expertise during the prior, earlier stage of the game. And I know you guys are working really, really hard on this, but I feel like, architect fees. So I understand architect fees could be 10% of the total. It says here 1.274. Does that mean the budget is 12 million? I just think you need to have your ducks in a row here if you want this to pass. I definitely want it to pass, but I also want it to make sense fiscally. And I think that, everyone agrees to that. So I would like to see this budget and a little bit more outlined when they come back with the plan. What are they talking about? And that's what everybody wants to see. And maybe bring in, maybe look at past estimates that some of the research at the meeting that came up, because that people are going to be thinking, oh, where do you get $19 million from? And I think you need better explanation about all of this. That's what's really missing.
Okay, thank you. It's important that we get that. I want to say that the $19 million is I think we all consider that sort of past history, and we're starting fresh to get better numbers than those. And so
Well,
I don't
not
want
if
to go
you're,
back and
not
try
if
and
you're
support them.
planning, not if we have to pay architect fees of 1.2 and project management fees of $1 million. It's going to easily go right back up. So that's why I say you have to control your
Are you getting those,
costs.
Jody? Are you getting those numbers from the
This from the website. From
and so-
the this was from a cost estimate, eligible, non-eligible project cost summary, and then with renovation only. From your website. So I think it'd be really good to go line by line through the budget. I've done this before for my projects. I just feel like it's missing. No one understands it. Everyone at the town meeting did not understand the numbers. And when somebody spoke and said, hey, oh, the roof is gonna cost $150,000, not whatever, millions of dollars. People were like, what? And then my friend who does heating said that the heating system should not be that expensive. And he does commercial heating. So I think we really need to have our checks in the row. I feel like we need to bring in some experts, community experts that won't charge us. We have so much knowledge in this town.
Okay. Lee, you have your hand up?
Yes, I think that we were discussing in the meeting today that we have to have a detailed budget. It has to be totally transparent and it has to be detailed. So we will be dealing with it at coming meetings as we get that information. I want to reassure
And what
her
was
on
the
that.
time frame for, what was the time frame for that? Because I wasn't sure, it was unclear in the project
It's not
plan.
clear yet, but I would say somewhere between October and January.
When? December and January?
Somewhere between October and January.
The other thing is you have to be careful when you're working with these contractors. I mean, you know, we have some really, there are people that are engineers in this town. We can't just say, you know, is this the best we can do? You know, I understand that. I don't know. I've done things different. I work in nonprofits. I've worked on projects and we watch every penny. And I've done a lot of money for little money. I've done a lot for a little bit of money. And I just feel like we need to be smarter. So when you get the budget, let's look at it. Let's not spend $1 million on moving. Maybe we close part of the building at a time. Maybe you go into the Forbes building. And for furniture, maybe you do a campaign, you put the fundraising money that you make towards the furnishings and things like that. And you prioritize. I just feel like definitely when you guys are doing it and you could list out the amounts and the numbers and they make more sense. These numbers do not make sense to me. And then the project management, why is it $1 million for a project manager? That's like, or it was 1.5, they said, for a project manager at the last call. That doesn't make any sense to me. So a project manager is getting paid $500,000 a year?
Oh.
And I don't understand that number.
I'm not sure. Sorry.
But let me jump in. Jody, I'm not sure where those numbers are coming from because we haven't committed to pay anything like that for this project.
That was from the last meeting. You guys said that we had to hire a project manager for $1.5 million.
No, excuse me, Jody. Massachusetts state law says that any project with an estimated value over 1.5 million has to have a owner's project manager secured. So
that's not their fee. That's the total project cost.
That's just the total project cost. We have to, their fee for this portion is $99,000 to do phase
I'm sorry.
one.
I thought it was at 1.5 million for the project manager.
1.5 is the threshold that triggers us needing to have an owner's
project.
No,
I understand that. But well, there was something on this budget, and the budget is actually from September 13th, 2022 from the website that I'm looking at. Cost estimate eligible, non-eligible project cost summary.
But that was for
a different project.
Total new building. That was for the 35.
Nope, it has renovation only.
This is totally
it has estimates.
This is totally different. A totally different, just repair only.
But the other thing is, aren't we also doing? The town is expecting. This is why you guys need to have somebody like me kind of telling you what the town, because I feel like you're not hearing what others want. They don't want just repairs. They want a renovation as well. They want a better space as well. And I think that's what people are expecting.
Town told us loud and clear, this is the repair only project, and that is what I stressed at that October meeting.
Right.
I guess it's just the way you word it. It's just the wording, Bob, but I really feel
I was very clear at the town meeting.
Well, I think that it depends how people look at it. repair / renovation, perhaps. I mean, I think that's just the wording of it, but I know people are gonna want
Let me break
an
in.
updated.
Let me break in. I don't, I don't want to go back and forth on this too long. We have a lot of people. Jody, can I ask you to send me a copy of the budget you're looking at? Just, I'd like to be sure we're talking about the same thing. And then I will work with you on it offline. And if need
Okay.
be, we can bring it up at the next meeting.
I'm just trying to help. I want this to pass, everybody. I'm just trying to help here, and I feel like, it's just, these are the questions that I think a lot of people have that I'm just sharing with you. Okay?
I appreciate your passion for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to happen, and I love the priorities and I love the energy, but I'm one of the advocates that was for it. I did vote against it because it was too expensive, but I'm for it. So I just think that there's a better way to do it and make it happen, and I've had experience doing so. So, okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well,
I think people have to understand this is a public project with it's Massachusetts statute 149, 149A, chapter 30.
Bob, let me jump in again. We shouldn't be talking about the public forum.
Right.
So hopefully I will hear from Ms. Fredman and continue those discussions, and we'll both learn something, and we'll go from there, resolve that stuff hopefully on May 23rd, if not sooner.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. And thanks for staying on. I thought we were adjourned and I was wrong. Okay.
All right. Yeah,
Anything else?
Bye-bye.
Bye.